All right, we're gonna get started, you guys. I'd like to call to order this meeting of Town of Dayton Commission on Disability. Today is July 11th, 2024, and we're currently at prime time, 1059 Somerset Avenue. This is a hybrid meeting via Zoom and in person. It is being recorded. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do a call to order. Whoever wants to start.
Kevin Smith, present.
Cynthia Boland, present.
Jonathan Gale, liaison, present.
Christina De Oliveira, present.
Thank you, and Nicole Mello. I'd ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, the Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good affiliation. Cushion.
All right, so commission member introductions, we just did a call to order. We have our new member, Cindy, with us today. Thank you for joining. We'll go right into new business, which is something new. We're gonna have an ADA coordinator report. We're gonna give you 5 minutes, Jonathan, and we wanna make sure that it strictly has to do with our work on the commission. So from there, you go ahead and you get started.
Okay, so I will do my best to keep it in the strict work because I may have a couple of asks as we go along, so we can sort this out as we go. First thing is just to let you know, in the past month, I've had about 12 or 13 residents reach out with just general questions, a few related to our website, and I was able to walk them through what to do. Two of those individuals had disabilities that were not visual impairment. A couple of the others were visual impairment. One of the persons had a question about whether or not the website would be accessible with different types of hearing devices as well. So I went through that with those folks. A couple of questions about wheelchair accessibility to different facilities around town. As I said, I think there were 13 altogether, but we were able to resolve all of those in short amount of time with just a few questions. As far as the library, and this would be an ask on behalf of the COD, is the next library building committee meeting will be next week on the 16th. And there's a question mark there about whether or not we are meeting what I believe as the ADA coordinator is the expectation with regard to egresses. The building commissioner feels that we only need one egress. The developer, who we haven't heard from yet, the architect fully, at first felt we needed two, and now is potentially agreeing with the building commissioner that we need one. I'm not opposed to that. However, the information that I have specifically states that we need two, and I also have that information provided to me from the Mass Office on Disability. The reason I'm explaining this is when we have our meeting next week, assuming we have enough of a plan to determine whether the developer is recommending the one or the two, I may need to ask or make a motion at that point for the library building committee to seek input from the Massachusetts Office of Disability specifically. And that would mean they would come out at no charge, survey the building, and make a determination for us whether we need that second egress. Again, we do have something in writing from them already that indicates we probably do, but I'm willing to stand corrected. The reason I'm bringing this to your attention is I would like to know if the COD would consider at least potentially supporting my request to the library building committee for the Mass Office on Disability to come in and do a review, a site review, which just takes a few minutes, and I can set it up so that they can determine correctly whether or not we do need that second egress or we need to ask for a variance potentially. That's important because that may determine eventually whether the library building will be able to be certified to be opened or not. And I want to get this right. I don't want to have to go back to it later for a whole variety of reasons, including the architectural design, potential cost factor, etc. So I'm asking you as members of the COD to at least consider supporting my request if it should come to that, as you know, representatives of the public, if you will. That's item number one. The other item, and I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, that I'm serving on a transportation task force to look at safe streets, sidewalks, etc. on Serpent. And along those lines, we're in the process of looking at sites within the towns, the 27 towns this whole project covers, and looking at potential sites, sidewalks, intersections, where sidewalks and intersections could benefit not just people with disability, but people in general, whether it's bicycling, etc., walking. In my case, and in this case right now, for the purposes of this meeting, I want to focus on potential future intersections where we might consider sidewalks, intersections, wider intersections, potentially lights, perhaps, that are audible, things like that. And I'm hoping that the members of the COD can work with me over the next 2 months to do some site surveys around town, perhaps put together a discussion group around town, as well as to best practices, so that we can hear from residents as to the locations they feel are important, and also include the highway department and members of the, as I said, and members of the public. So I'm asking that you can work with me on that. I don't know if you need to put a subcommittee together, and if there's one or two, or how many members I can work with to put this together and hold a public meeting, and specifically go around town and take a look at intersections that might be flagged.
Right, that's
That
fine,
also,
Jonathan. I got your first thing on the library, which I just left, speaking with the building commissioner before this meeting. I don't know if it's a vocabulary issue that we're having, because there's just like a disconnect between what you say and what he says. So I know there's gonna be a second egress, but it doesn't sound like it's gonna be accessible. Is that the issue, that you want 2 accessible egresses, or
that is correct.
Okay, because from what that independent consultant or whoever we had, that also has looked at this, said that we don't have to by the books or whatever it is. And the building commissioner says that as well. We're still we know we're all waiting on the plans, but there's nothing on the law saying within that building that we need 2 accessible egresses.
So I'm going to disagree with you, because there are things in the law and in the code that say we do need 2 accessible egresses. And in fact, I do have an email in writing from the Mass Office on Disability that literally says the words, "Jonathan, you are correct." So again, we don't know until we see the final plan from the architect. However, the building commissioner is in receipt, or should have been in receipt several months ago, of that same email, and that email trail from the Mass Office on Disability and the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board. So they're aware of it.
Email
What
been sent to the library committee, because I'm not aware of anyone that's aware of that email as well, because that would be helpful, because I know committee members from that have had questions.
Right.
So if that could be sent to them, that would be great.
Right. Mark does have that email, and he will be bringing that information and putting it up on the screen when we meet on Tuesday, so that will be there to show that there's a difference in opinion. I don't know what the code is specifically that the architect might be citing, but my concern is that they're not citing the correct code. I don't know that for sure. What I'm asking is that if it turns out, depending upon what they're saying, I feel as the ADA coordinator, it's necessary to have the state come in and take a look at it. And they're always willing to do that. It doesn't, we're not beholden to them for anything, and there's no damage involved or anything like that. It's just asking them for their opinion. I think it's important to at least leave the door open to have that done. I don't want to close the door and then later have the public say, well, you have an ADA coordinator and you have a commission on disability, and look what happened.
I think that should be solely on the ADA coordinator. I don't know if this commission should be getting involved, as you sit on that committee, and we do not. Kevin?
Well, I'll just interject a little bit. I did read a little bit into Architectural Access Board. I think because I think I lean towards Jonathan being correct, only because once you go over two and you get to 3 points of egress, well, actually, it'll actually be four, if that back door that we've talked about becomes a door, now you have four. Then you would need the two. The other kind of side of this that I think kind of gets lost in translation sometimes is, like Jonathan said too, is we do have the ability, because of the historic nature of the building and it could be considered excessive cost, that we could at least just get the variance to say that it's okay, you can open without it.
Okay.
So we don't necessarily have to build anything, if they say you should have it, but we do have the ability, and I think enough backbone to at least get a variance, so.
And that would be important to have.
Yeah, and then at least
I think-
we crossed our Ts and dotted our Is,
Mhm.
and then we're good to go, but it's,
And the backstory a little bit, Nicole, on this is that this does come from myself and Kevin did take pictures of the different doors and so forth and the potential egress points of the building. We did send those into the AAB and to MOD, and based on what we showed them in the pictures, not knowing yet what we would have, they determined, it was their determination from the pictures at least, that we would have to have two accessible forms of egress. So I think it's really important to at least know that if we need to do that, all I'm really trying to ask is that, yes, as the ADA coordinator, I can certainly make that proposal and I can make that motion and it's going to be voted up or down. But it certainly would help to know that if we do need to make that motion, that the COD is at least supportive of a motion like that.
I mean, we don't oversee you, you're overseen by the town administrator's department. So, I mean, I see how we could have some push, but I mean, I'm already on that committee, I'm not looking to also, because I'm on this one, also make that kind of, I can already make that kind of, motion or whatever, being on there. And I really would like to see what the architect brings back before anything else.
And I do, and I again, I agree that we have to see what the architect brings back, if they bring back even their 30%, but that's, that's another issue.
Yeah, that's an issue outside of ADA.
It is, but we may potentially need to revisit it, so, I guess
Yeah.
we'll
we all need to see the plans and then make a judgment, and then I think we could, as a committee, draft a recommendation. But to do so now would be jumping the gun, like you
Because it
said.
could be one of the situations where there's a long for nothing.
Yeah. And I don't disagree. I just wanted to put the COD on notice. That's all. That,
Trying to know about the sidewalks and the lights and whatnot. So what's the funding source for that?
the funding source for that is the grant that I'm already working under, which is it's a Serpent funding source. It's a little over a $2 million grant.
Okay.
So that there's nothing that the town has to pay for or anything like that in that respect. This is a project that I've been serving on for a few months now. Our prior town administrator was very aware that I'm serving on this as well and what my involvement is. So, I think they're looking to us as the participants from the different towns. And in my case, as the ADA coordinator from Dayton, they're looking, for information on what we consider safety factors or concerns. Again, it's not just related to disability, but part of it relates to disability. So I would hope that the commission would be able to work with me to put, either a seminar together or an educational discussion with the public or some kind of a workshop together to hear from the public, or if nothing else, go out and look at different intersections and roadways that, I have some on my radar that the public have brought to my attention already that potentially could come under the purview of disability, quote unquote. But it may be good to put it out there for the public as to what intersections or what roads they feel are important with regard to accessibility, because that's part of what we need to identify directly within our communities.
I just want to I'm sorry, Jonathan, I don't know anything about this grant, so I just want to understand, is it a grant that sits within the town or this is?
This is a grant that this does not exist within the town. This is a Serpent grant. The grant is to pay, there are full-time staff at Serpent. There are several people working on the grant full-time on different components. And there are contractors they brought in as well that specialize in road safety. The individuals like myself, which represent the 27 towns, they reached out to me as the ADA coordinator to be involved in this project and to work on ADA components of the project. In turn, I reached out to our prior town administrator who okayed it.
Okay, and so we would define the work and then they would pay for it and they would find the people to do the work and pay for it.
The work that I'm doing on this is coming through my agreement with the town. They
No,
do not.
I'm talking about the issues that you find, the sidewalks that you want, all that.
Yes,
That
if
would
we,
be
if,
covered with the grant.
if we need to do other forms of outreach and so forth to put this together, then the Serpent grant would help pay for that.
So I think, no, Nicole's asking, like, you're asking construction wise?
Yeah, like.
This is more like a feasibility study at this point, correct?
Correct. These are all feasibility projects for ideas of the future.
Afterwards, then they tell us to go do it on our dime.
No, Nicole, this is all feasibility looking forward into the future for safe streets and safe sidewalks.
I understand that, but I just don't wanna see it be a feasibility that they find all these issues that should be corrected and then they tell the town, well, these are all things that we found in our study and you need to fix them. And then we're over here, not to say that they don't need to be fixed, but we know the financial situation that we're in.
The goal, yeah, no, the goal is not to do that. The goal is to come up with a series of best practices that they can recommend to the larger body, because there are the other organizations in the state similar to Serpent are doing the same thing. So really, this goes back to DOT, and DOT in the end, a year and a half from now, is going to be looking at these reports to look at future practices going forward.
And then, and this sounds like it's segueing towards what we did in North Dayton, where we had grant funded sidewalks there, right?
That's correct, yes.
Right.
I don't understand the future practices. What does that mean? That sounds like future things that, the standards, but I'm saying, once we establish the standards, who's gonna actually implement them?
It's not like you said the DOT.
Yeah, so that they.
Right. The State Department of Transportation, this would be for future best practices for communities on future grants, maybe 3, 4, 5 years from now, or the types of things they would be looking for in future design for safety, for intersections, for sidewalks, for bike lanes, things of that nature. So they're trying to look at what are the best practices for the larger communities and the smaller communities, and what are the differences, because they're certainly not the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
I can work with him on that just because
yeah,
the CAM certification will kind of
Yeah, that
give
would
me
be
like
great.
the opportunity
You can put it
to
into
do
play.
some
I know.
field work, and like
That's
Jonathan's CAM certified too, so we can
yeah, I think that's a great
kind of
idea.
so yeah, Jonathan, I'll work with you on that. We can do site visits, record stuff, and then
All right, great.
Yeah.
When I come back, we'll get together and I'll bring some of the information that we would be looking for with us then. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, we're gonna move on to old business. So real quick, an update on the lower level town hall threshold request. I was able to speak with the building commissioner. He did make some requests. He's looking for the KMA report and for me to signal out exactly where on there this is. And then also, when we had the town administrator on here, we didn't really have like a funding source, but like I talked with Kevin, he thinks it was under the $500 mark. So that as well, it needs to just be laid out for him before any of that can happen. And I'm gonna get that over to him. I just haven't at this point, but that's where we are with that.
And I'll get that documentation, because I'll find it in KMA and get it to you.
Okay, perfect.
Streamline it.
Yes, thank you.
And I think too, like, just for like an ask that small, like I would assume it probably could just fall under our general building repair budget.
Yeah, we must have,
We have
yeah.
money set aside for things like that, so.
And okay, thank you. So next, I still have discussed KMA report. I don't know if we have anything new on that. I mean, we're still trying to finish our last thing that we chose from that. So it's depending on what the group wants, if they've looked at it, if they've seen something else that they're looking to complete. I'll get that report to you, Cindy. It's something that we had done a while back, and it went through and assessed the town on different things in regards to ADA. What needs to be brought up, and kind of gave it like a dollar amount and stuff like that. We're just going through that and trying to find items that we can cross off the list that are reasonable at this time.
And yeah, I have a like kind of a living document to a Google Doc, so now that I have your email,
Yeah.
I'll send that to you, because it's kind of, when you go through the whole report, it's like kind of daunting, there's a ton of pages, so we broke it down and itemized it
Oh, okay.
by like location, priority, and
Okay.
cost. So like, I think it's actually good to just let it go for now. If she gets a chance to review it over the next, and then at our next meeting, we can kind of jump back into it, because
Okay.
now that we have a quorum.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to meet with the acting TA when I get back the first week in August. And some of the things that I'll be going over relate to the KMA report, but more related to policy and so forth. But at least at that point, I think at our next meeting, if I met with him by then, I can also bring to your attention the things that are more policy related and that he feels are policy related for us to work on over the next several months.
Next is member report. Kevin, do you have anything to report on?
No, I don't think I have anything new to report.
Christina, do you have anything?
The CPAC had our first meeting. We elected a new board. We have school liaisons, which is awesome, and we're gonna be having a planning meeting next week. So when we get all our workshops planned and everything, I can send those out to everybody.
Great, thank you, and we'll make sure they get on the commission's Facebook page.
Thank you.
Cindy, you have anything?
No.
I don't have anything either. Did everyone get the minutes from our 6:13 meeting? Did everyone have a chance to review them? Yeah? Alright, so just a review and approve minutes from 6/13/2024. Anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from 6:13.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Yeah. Any discussion? Can I get a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Needs to be roll call because of Zoom, and I'm not a voter.
Can
Kevin
everyone say
Smith,
their names?
Kevin Smith, aye.
Cynthia Boland, aye.
Christina de Oliveira, aye.
Alright, and it passes. We have public input. Do you have any public input? We don't have any public.
Is anybody trying to get on this?
Alright, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Any discussion? Can I get a vote with a roll call?
Kevin Smith, aye.
Cynthia Boland, aye.
Christina de Oliveira, aye.
Alright, thank you. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
I'll keep that one.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, it's a little lengthy.
That's okay.